Hi guys, Freddy here. Now you might remember a few weeks ago I did a video telling everybody about the Space Street Game Jam, where the author of that game, SR16, was offering people prizes for creating stuff for his role-playing game Space Street. So you could win prizes for putting in adventures or settings or play aids or whatever you wanted. Now that was to run for 2 weeks. And those 2 weeks have now ended. And the awards have been given out. Everything's been ranked, voted upon, and I thought I'd return to it and go through the four competitors, the four entrants in the Game Jam, and say what I think of them, have we look through, and see the quality of the stuff that's been entered. So, let's go over to the computer desktop and have a look at number 4. So here we've got a character sheet, which was submitted by TTRPG Gamer. Good name. Not me this time. But it's a very basic character sheet. Now, it does somewhat stick with the style of Space Street, because Space Street is a very stripped down system. There's only 3 attributes, you've got your beliefs behind it. So this is, at its very base, what you could expect for a Space Street character sheet. But I find it a bit lacking, to tell the truth. Space Street's very stylish in its imagery, so I'd expect a space for you to put a picture on. It's also, there's no background information, no space for notes, no space for equipment, things you find, money you've got. You know, whether your character's rich or whatever, you should be able to put these on, which would influence how you play. So I find it a bit disappointing that it's such a stripped down, such a basic character sheet, and doesn't really stick with the graphical style of Space Street at all. But apart from that, it's a fairly solid one. It's not an editable PDF. Again, a strike against it. This is just for printing out and writing on. So I can understand why this came forth. It's a bit of a disappointing entry. And there is no third position, but there's a joint second position. And first at joint second position that we're going to cover is Space Street Station. Space Station Mysteries, made for Space Street, compatible with almost any system. Now this is by Attack Cat Games, and it's a really solid entry. Let's flick through. So, what is Space Street Station? Space Street Station is an outline and setting for a noir detective story set in a hard-boiled future, on a space station. Life on a space station is cramped and precarious. Everything has to run smoothly to avoid catastrophe. And we've got the black outline of Space Station here with the rough areas of it. So we've got the slums, the Lord's Tower, hydroponics areas, docks, the engines which hold it in place, etc. Then we've got the scene. It was raining. It was always raining. For a space station, it sure rains a lot. Something about the wastewater system and an old virus in the software. And I really like that. That's an idea which takes cyberpunk settings of rainy streets and transplants it onto a space station. So you've got a rickety, worn-out space station, unloved and uncared for by many, which the sprinkler systems or the hydroponics are making the atmosphere very moist, so condensation's forming on the ceilings and it's raining in the corridors. It's a damp, horrible place to live, but it's a space station, not a city. I like that idea. I also love the artwork here of Sherlock Holmes with his big pipe and the cybernetics sprouting out of his collar going up his neck. I really do like that imagery. Now, what it does is Space Street Station sets up basically random adventures or random mysteries, because it is a detective system. So, we've got 6 options here. So we roll a d6, and that evening the stranger was a jittery android, or a hooded figure, or a clever urchin. So, we have a person coming in who are hiring the detectives. And their distress is a missing loved one, or a top-secret file cube, or an escaped artificial intelligence. You know, again, rolling a d6 and coming up with what they've got going on. And then you've got your types of detectives. The sneaker, the techie, the smoozer, the interrogator, the researcher, and the muscle. the basic concepts behind what kind of detectives they are. Again, lovely artwork. And then we've got places and problems. So different areas of the station where the players will encounter different problems. Now these are D4 tables instead of D6, and you would roll on them to find out what the problem in that location as you follow your main mystery is. So we've got the rotation engines, hydroponic bays, etc, etc. And then we've got building your clues. So we've got 6 again, so a D6 roll, of what the clues you might discover as the story goes on. And we've got information on how to do that. Play with your beliefs, preparing for the final showdown, work backwards. And that is it. So we've got the clues, we've got the mystery, and we've got a random system for developing a storyline. So instead of your games master sitting down and writing a mystery for a week and then the players attempting it, basically this makes Space Street into a game where you sit down, you roll some dice, and you build the story together. Now that's a very modern concept, one I've only really seen explored properly in Shadows of Mog, and it's something I really, really like. It's taking board game ideas that you just sit down and play a game to role-playing. So you're role-playing the situations out, but randomly rolling for what those situations are. I really like this. A really strong contribution to the Game Jam. And the other joint entry at second place is Alone in This Case, by The Gates of Truth, or Satya David, as I imagine his real name is. Now this is a solo system for Space Street, although it does include some rules which I think you could carry over into a normal multiplayer role-playing game, to use a terrible term, for handling NPCs. So if we flick in, we can see it's Space Street, so it goes through explaining what a solo game is and the Space Street rules of brawn, finesse, and investigation attributes. And then it goes into non-player characters, and they have their own attributes. So they have mood, threat, lies, and confront, and it details how those are handled. So by the attributes the NPC has, that's how they react to you. And that can be very, very useful to a games master in a normal role-playing situation, as well as in single player. So the situation as you interact with them, whether they're going to be chill, tired, upbeat with you, whether they're going to be ready for a fight or running away, or whether they're going to beg for mercy. We've got confront here, so are they going to escalate situations or apologise for them? It's a very interesting way of building up an NPC's interaction with players. Now, we go into how the investigations are handled, and we've got an introduction to the setting here, or the adventures. And then it's to be continued. And I really would like to see this be continued, because I think that's a fantastic idea as an interesting new way of handling NPCs with a more wide variety of actions, instead of just creating a personality, having them have a variety of things, ways they can react. Another very, very solid entry to the Game Jam. And the winner of the Game Jam is The Cabinet of RZ6W2L by Watt. And this is an adventure, and it's a very interesting idea for an adventure, especially for Space Street, based around investigation, because this is more psychological than most investigation adventures would be, and it's also in cyberspace. So the players are entering the mind of an artificial intelligence to discover some secret it's got at its core. So as they explore, they go through areas of its memory. We've got the dump, where everything it's ever learned is kind of dumped. So it's like a giant trash heap. And they go through that. And then you're onto the desert. So there's nothing here, but the artificial intelligence manipulates your physical form. So you might be the pieces of an ancient mechanical bird, or a dozen inconspicuous lizards spread across 2 miles of void. And it's a role-playing situation that your character suddenly becomes something else. And how do they interact with each other, and how do they solve the problems to get through to the next area? And then we've got the next area, which is the discourse, which is basically a riddle. But it's not a riddle as in standard role-playing games where the games master will Google for something or have a riddle in mind, and one player will have heard it before and will solve it instantly. But this is a random riddle. So you roll on a table and you can get, what do you call a fish that's chewing a mouthful of ash? Now that's a nonsensical riddle, but it's up to you to role-play out with the games master what the sensible answer is, and to justify it. It's a role-playing situation based about nonsense, and I really like that. So you're moving on. And the final area is the cabinet. And once you get in there and you break open the cabinet, there may be the information you're looking for, or there may be something completely different. Because perhaps the artificial intelligence isn't hoarding the information you're after. Perhaps it's hoarding other AI it's created. Basically, it's children. Perhaps it's got death or truth, or it's connected up to some cybernetic body somewhere and has a physical form. This artificial intelligence doesn't exist just in cyberspace, but is actually a machine somewhere. It's a space station, or it's a giant machine factory. It has a physical form that it's concealing from you. And it's a really interesting idea. There's some psychological things in there. There's a bit of a warning on the front that this might not be great if people have various things which trigger them. But it's a really good idea, and another solid contribution. Now, personally, I don't think it should have won. I really like it, but it's a bit brief. I much prefer the joint second places. The alone in this case rules for handling NPCs are excellent, but I really, really love the Space Street Station rules, which create a random adventure from nowhere. You just sit down and play, roll some dice, and you've got your role-playing situation that night. I like that a lot. I think that's really solid. So that was the Space Street Game Jam, the winner and the runners-up in it. And I think there were some brilliant ideas in there. I was very, very impressed with what people came up with. And I'm really glad that SR16 asked me to have a look through and help promote this game jam. I wish there'd been more, and I would love to have read through more. But we got what we got, and the quality was very, very high. So, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope there's some nice ideas in there. Remember, all of these are free to download, or download for whatever you want to pay, as is Space Street itself. So head on over to the website and check it out, because there's some brilliant ideas in there. But as always, thank you very, very much for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment below, as it does me massive favours with the YouTube algorithm. But most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.